This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
Heyo, how's it going? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow with your hosts, Truck and Kulz. How you doing today, Kulz?
Doing great. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful day today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. You can find me at fantasy_trucker. You can find him at Kulz_sports. Follow the show at Fantasy Roadshow and the live. What's the one I'm talking about? The Substack, the fantasyroadshow.substack.com. I had a brain fart there. My apologies. Kulz, so you ready to get into some waivers today? Some Hitch Hikers?
Yeah, sorry I couldn't bail you out there. I live and I was like,
What are you trying to think of? Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention either.
All good.
I was looking at our Fantasy Roadshow group. I told you motherfuckers that I was coming for you last week, 13-3. I am now three behind place for the record. So had a feeling that was a good week. It was the Jaguars, Cowboys, and Ravens games that I got wrong. So I imagine everyone got those wrong.
Yeah.
And it looks like 13. So it looks like I was the top scorer of the week. There's a bunch of 12s. Rob, Kulz, Shane O'Mac.
And that's for our Pick'em League.
Rika. Yeah, this is Pick'em. Elmer picks. He also had 120. Nathan. So yeah, first place currently Mamrika, Elmer picks, King Ra, and Script. So that's who I'm fucking coming for.
Okay. And then you'll hear more about that.
What's your
Friday
name? Where are you?
For our Friday Pick'em episode.
What's your name?
What?
What's your name on this?
Oh, get some 222. That's my
Okay, so
my old school ESPN login.
Get some.
Yeah, I'll be
maybe
down
you
there.
should change your name to Fantasy Tracker.
It's like the old school Xbox gamer tags, you know. That one's from a long time ago. But anyway, we are here today talking about waivers for week 4. We're getting into it today. There's a lot of interesting names that we're going to be bringing up and talking about. So let's just get right into it, Kulz. How about it? Buckle up. All right, so running backs. Let's get right into it. The top name that everyone's talking about, Devon Achane. It's no secret. The guy was a complete monster on Sunday. Let's see. He had 18 carries, 203 yards, 4 catches, 4 targets, 30 yards, 2 touchdowns in the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, complete domination. Where do you see, just a quick question for you, like, how do you see his usage moving forward? Is he like a 50-50 split with Mostert, or is he going to eat into more of that?
Well, I just want to, first off, am I allowed to just say I told you so? For that one,
toot your own horn. If you guys were watching the roadshow last week,
that's torn hootin'. That's a horn tootin', a horn tootin', a torn hootin' tootin'.
Yeah,
that's a horn tootin' play right there. I mean, literally all week, go pick up Devon Achane. Ahmed is trending to be out. Pick him up. I still want to clip that video from Sunday morning, because literally said, everyone stop what you're doing, look on your waivers. Devon Achane is there. Put him on your bench. I mean, at that point, I think Ahmed was ruled out. So it became even more of a no-brainer for me. That offense thrives on speed and playmaking ability, and that's exactly what he has. So to me, I didn't think it was going to be 4 touchdowns, 200 yards on the ground. That obviously no one could. That's just like the craziness that happens in fantasy, right? Like no one could predict that. But that was the type of week. Half of that was the type of week that you were waiting to see, and then he was going to become a luxury on the wire. And you saw, I mean, obviously in a massive way it happened. But yeah, I mean, in terms of timeshare, who cares? It's going to be you're going to want every possible piece of the Dolphins offense that you could get. They look like they're just going to put up ridiculous numbers all year on everyone. So, I mean, he's a must-start home run hitting type asset. Like Mostert 31, he's only had 2 seasons in his entire career that he was healthy the entire season. And I guaranteed he wasn't a featured back. I actually don't have the numbers on that, but A-Chain's going to be used. He's awesome. He's going to be used as a weapon just like he is. And, you know, it's one of those things like he's pretty small, but if healthy, he's going to be awesome and on the field and in situations where he can hit home runs, which he's going to do more times than not. So must start I want to say must start, but like he's a must start player. He just is.
So last week he was going against the Denver Broncos. Terrible defense. This next week they're in Buffalo. Buffalo just completely stopped Commanders in their tracks. They were 2-0 and they just
Commanders suck.
Completely routed. Yeah. But you know, are you afraid of this Buffalo matchup at all or no?
I mean, like I have them, as I just said, like every team that we have together that he was available, we picked them up. Every team that I have, period, that's not dynasty, I picked him up. I think we actually have him in a dynasty team, which is awesome. But so for me, it was like I don't need him on any team. Most teams that I have, I'm pretty good at running back. Really because I was so aggressive on Kyron Williams and Zach Moss in the wire, and those ended up being the guys to grab that ended up hitting. But it's going to be it's definitely going to be at first a matchup dependent start. That being said, like that Dolphins Bills game should be pretty high scoring. So it just really depends on the matchups, man. I mean, that's fantasy. Like for the most part, you can flip a coin on basically all of these guys. Like we have all these tiers set up for draft season, and then you get in season, and like to me, the tiers are massive. Like, do not like. That's why I get so frustrated, and I tell myself every single week, just do not get emotionally invested. Like, understand that this is all fucking random. We can sit here and speculate. There's experts that like know more about fantasy and football itself, but at the end of the day, like, you know, you could take our advice and it's probably better than your own advice, but no one knows, right? So like it's random, but for the most part, you have your dog wide receiver ones that you're starting no matter what, and then you know there's a tier of just guys who are pretty much must starts, but like if you have an up and comer like a Puka or a Tank Dell with a great matchup, you're like, should I start them over them? But for the most part, it's, you know, play your matchup that you feel most confident in, and it's all about target share, you know. Like who's going to have a serious target share all season long, so you put him in that second tier where it's like, all right, I'm trying to think of someone like Cortland Sutton. He's in that tier now, you know. Not in an Ayuk, in a you know, Chris Olave. He's not in that tier, right?
Definitely a tier underneath.
Right.
No, it's definitely something to think about when you're looking at these matchups and these rosters where you have guys tiered out and who you feel comfortable starting in a week in, week out, or the considered must starts, and then potential up and comers. So, but for me, if you need A-Chain, don't be afraid to start him this week at Buffalo. With the way that this Dolphins offense has been rolling, like you know, it doesn't seem like anybody can stop him yet. So, but I think A-Chain.
I'll say it again this week on Pick'em. Dolphins are due for regression, and like I'll maybe gonna be wrong. That being said, like this is not the Broncos. This is not one of those teams that they've played the first 3 weeks. This is the Bills, who are playing at home and know that if they want to win the division, this is a game that they got to win. So that's why you see them. I think they're 2.5 point favorites.
Buffalo.
I think Buffalo's 2.5 point favorites. Typically, like typically the home team gets 3 points. So Vegas is valuing this as like a pick 'em, leaning towards the Dolphins in terms of like how they're just looking at both teams right now. If there's a power rankings, it would be 1A Dolphins, 1B Bills.
Yeah, Dolphins are ranked higher than Bills right now in pretty much anybody's power rankings based on what we've seen through the first 3 weeks.
Half of a point. So not actually, but like it's not even a full point difference. So that's just how Vegas looks at it. I'm not talking about fucking Colin Coward. That's how how Vegas is looking at this. That's 3 points is typically the home and away
split
value. Yeah.
All right. Well, so that's one game I'm gonna be looking forward to this week. I can't wait to watch that Dolphins Bills matchup. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and it's gonna be something. You mentioned the Miami backfield. Like that's something that we're gonna be talking about and looking at every week at this point. Like we're gonna have 1 week of Mostert and A-Chain, and then we're gonna see what happens. Is Wilson healthy? Does he come off the pup? And then he's gonna be mixed in. Does he take away short yardage and goal line? So we're going to have that conversation for the next few weeks. So
yeah, it is
you want anyone on the Dolphins that you could possibly have, right?
Yeah, to me, it's a true 3-headed backfield as of right now. But the way I projected, I do think A-Chain is the most talented running back on the team. And as we're progressing towards the end of the season, you're going to see A-Chain slowly but surely eat into that top spot, in my opinion. So is A-Chain the top of your list this week for waiver wire ads?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Unless you are desperate for wide receiver, then.
So he is available, or he's rostered in only 46% of leagues in Sleeper, and he's only rostered in 16% of leagues on ESPN. So this week, Mike, I wrote down the availability in Sleeper and ESPN because I think this is very interesting. If you're in an ESPN league, a lot of these guys that we're talking about, they're not rostered in as many as Sleeper. Sleeper seems to be like the more higher tiered players, the more dedicated players that are picking up a lot deeper leagues and stuff like that. So we had a question. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so we're live, huh? So we're going to be
we're live, Kulz. We're live.
All right. Ayuk stardom. Yeah, Ayuk's a must start. Is Thielen an ad? Yes, he is.
Yeah, we're going to get into Thielen in a little bit when we talk about wide receivers, but we talked about him last week. We told you guys he was the top of our ad for Thielen last week. If you listen to us, if you watch the show, he would already be on your roster.
Yeah, but Brooks, do us a favor and show us, tell us, give us an example of one of your teams where Thielen's on the waiver wire and you have to drop a list of a couple of players, and we'll tell you who to drop. But that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, feel free to get detailed here. We want to know. It's very case by case scenario, but yeah, Thielen is an ad for sure. All right, so like I said, A-Chain is only rostered in 46% of leagues on Sleeper, 16% on ESPN. Another guy who's rostered in a lot of leagues, Roshan Johnson, rostered in 59% of leagues on Sleeper, so the majority have him on the team, but only 33% on ESPN. Is Roshan? How do you feel about Roshan going into this week, Kulz?
Dotson is who I would drop. He just hasn't been cutting it. Is there anyone else that you could drop on that team besides Dotson? Roshan, yeah, I mean, sure, the Bears suck, but sure.
Yeah, I mean, having the best running back on the worst team isn't always the most valuable. So, yeah,
it's just great.
Would you trade Mostert for Pittman Jr.? I already have ETN, Mixon, Kamara, and Kyron, so you got a nice running back group right there. You need an upgrade from Michael Thomas at wide receiver 2.
I'll let you take that one first, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I would do that just because of this. Mostert, again, we talked about the injury history. I don't think he'll be able to sustain this the entire season. And Pittman seems to be doing well with or without Richardson. So, and it's a 12-team PPR. Yeah, absolutely. I think I would do it. Your running backs with ETN, Mixon, Kamara, and Kyron that's a stout group right there. So I'd be fine getting rid of Mostert, and Pittman seems like a viable candidate. So I would definitely do that. What about you, Kulz?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's a beast. We knew that, but it looks like he's got competent throwers, whether that's Minshew, we knew that. But from what we've seen from Richardson so far this year, I think that I would be comfortable getting Pittman. He's got 8, and 9 receptions on 11, 12, and 11 targets. The yards hasn't necessarily been there. He's more of a possession receiver, but think of like a Mike Evans light. Hopefully passing touchdowns come. Hopefully if Jonathan Taylor comes back, he's going to only get better. So sell high on Mostert and get Michael Pittman. That's a yes for me, especially because of your wide receiver room.
Yeah, easily. Looks like we got a few more viewers. If you guys have any questions about your teams, potential trades, who to pick up, let us know. We're just talking through this waiver wire this week. We've already gotten into A-Chain and Roshan. I'm going to bring up a couple more running backs. Mike, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, no problem, Jose. So I'm going to give you this list of running backs that are available, okay? And from the top, these guys are owned in a lot of leagues, and the bottom is not owned in a lot of leagues. So the deeper we go. We talked about A-Chain. He's at the top of our list. Roshan is interesting, but it's a terrible Bears defense. Now you have 3 running backs on the Ravens. The Ravens just got Gus Edwards is injured. You got Justice Hill is the most owned in 40%, 46% and 31 on ESPN. But then you got Melvin Gordon, who's basically unowned, and Kenyon Drake. Let's talk about this Ravens backfield and try to sort out, is it worth picking up anybody? Who do you like more than the others? Let's give these people some information on the Ravens.
I don't think it's even worth talking about. I mean, it's like it hasn't changed, and it's not valuable.
Okay, so Justice Hill,
Gus
don't pick
and
him
Justice.
up.
I mean, pick them up if you're in a deep league, but there's not a lot of people that I would be starting or rostering Hill and Edwards over, and I wouldn't be confident starting either of them. So, I mean,
who do you like the most out of Justice Hill, Melvin Gordon, and Kenyon Drake?
Melvin Gordon, just don't even say that name. He's not worth even bringing up.
Okay,
he's completely irrelevant in fantasy.
Right.
If you're going to bring up Melvin Gordon, you might as well bring up Kenyon Drake. Both just totally irrelevant. It's between Hill and Edwards, and I mean, it's Edwards over Hill, but you're seeing Monken want that running back who is versatile and can be used in pass catching, and that's Hill. So if he's healthy, maybe he gets some more looks, but like Edwards is the preferred runner out of that group. So I mean, like, worth having both on your roster or on your bench in a deep league, and Hill has higher upside, but Edwards he's a rushing touchdown dependent running back. Yeah. He's not going to get you catches, and Lamar might be sniping all of those, a lot of that yards and a lot of the touchdowns. So
that's what it seems like to me. Until they get a running back, they're just it's Lamar Jackson is the RB1 on the team. So we got another question here.
That they're going to get one.
Yeah. What do we do with Stevenson? He's running like Eddie Lacy after a bout of China food.
I love that.
Oh, that's great.
Hang on to Stevenson. He's still valuable. I didn't watch the game. Ryan Chuck did. So Chuck can speak more to what he looked like next to Zeke. But from my understanding, Zeke looked like a better runner, which is very scary. But Stevenson's ceiling is high enough that you hold on to him.
Yeah, it seems like they're in a 50-50 split right now. And from watching the game, Zeke looked like the better running back. They're both being involved in the passing game. So it's not like Stevenson has the passing game on lock and then Zeke is like the short yardage guy, but it's completely split. So I'm concerned. I have Stevenson in a couple leagues. Unfortunately, I still have to start him, so I'm hoping for the best, but it doesn't look good right now. And I'm hoping that turns it around, but I would still hold on to him. Just stash him on the bench if you can. Start someone else with higher upside, but I think he figures it out. He just has to. So that's where I'm at. All right. So we talked about stay away from the Ravens running backs. Don't go after Hill. Don't go after Gordon. Leave Drake alone. Completely irrelevant. So now there's a couple running backs that somebody might pick up, and we need to talk about them. Kendre Miller and Tony Jones for the Saints. Now, I already know what you're going to say. Alvin Kamara is coming back. So I just feel like we need to talk about this just to briefly and just let everybody know. Kendre Miller, for me, would be the one to stash because Jamal Williams is on the IR. But I think they're both kind of irrelevant with Kamara coming back. Do you agree?
Jones and Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony Jones and Kendre Miller. So if you were to stash one of them, which one would you stash?
There's better options out there.
Okay. All right. So neither.
Yeah.
All right. Now the next guy I want to talk about, Matt Breida. Now Saquon Barkley has an update. They say he's day to day. He's questionable to come back. What do you think?
So the reason why Miller doesn't have anything that Kamara doesn't. So if there was a complementary skill set, then yeah, you would lean more towards like, oh, there's value at goal line, whatever. But that is Kamara's getting, if Kamara has juice in the tank, he's on the field, period. There's nothing that Miller does that's better than Kamara. So that's why I say that.
And I think they're going to need him too with Jameis Winston now at quarterback for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
they're going to need Kamara to really step up.
For sure. Kamara was going to get everything regardless, just because that's how the Saints football team has successfully operated since Kamara's been a dog. But anyway, so Saquon and Breida, I don't really buy that Saquon's going to be back. I think that's Dabble just kind of playing games still. Like that injury is bad. I don't think it's a weak injury. So I don't think he's coming back.
All right, now who does Breida, or who do the Giants have coming up this week? It'd be interesting to find out here.
I know. I remember they were away. I'm looking right now.
They're playing the Seahawks at home Monday night.
Oh shit! I did not think that. Yeah, so Seahawks Monday night. I mean, that would be a great game to have Saquon back.
But you'd be comfortable putting in Breida? I mean, he looked decent.
Maybe, yeah, 100%. I'd be comfortable with Breida. Maybe that ankle is not as bad as it looked, but yeah, I mean, if you get Barkley back for this game, that's huge, and that could be a huge game for the Giants to get back on track, be 2-2. So that's exciting.
Okay,
I don't
know. The three.
Like what did you say Breida's ownership was?
Breida's owner, he's rostered in 42% of leagues on Sleeper and 26% on ESPN.
Gosh. I figured
I think he needs to be rostered just in case of re-injury. Like if there's the risk of re-injury, Breida could be valuable moving forward. So if you have Saquon and he's sitting on your bench right now, or injury, he's on your IR, hopefully you have a IR slot. Like you should have Breida.
Yeah, for me, that has to be a deep league, I would imagine, to keep him if Saquon's back. Because he doesn't have any value if Saquon's in. So I don't know. I just don't. I don't think Saquon's playing. Like from my understanding, that was a 3-week injury. There was some optimism around, so maybe 2 weeks, but certainly not one. I think it maybe helps that it was on Monday night, but does it actually?
Yeah. So you have A-Chain. You have A-Chain at 1. I'm guessing you have Matt Breida then at number 2 for running back pickups over Roshan. Or do you like Roshan?
I would have A-Chain, Roshan, Breida.
Okay, A-Chain, Roshan, Breida. So that's our list as of right now.
There's got to be someone even better than Breida, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into a couple more. Well, realistically, just one more that I think is really worth talking about is Tyjae Spears. Outsnapped Derrick Henry this week. Pretty much the past couple weeks he's been doing this. It hasn't really been translating to production, but it's intriguing that he's on the field a lot more often. He's being rostered right now in 32% of leagues on Sleeper and 16% on ESPN. Do you like Tyjae Spears? Is it interesting that he's being on the field a lot more than Derrick Henry? They clearly like him.
I like him, but his Titans offensive line is horrible, and I think that Henry has a toe. That injury is like real, his toe injury. So I think it's more the injury than like obviously liking him more than Derrick Henry. But the line is so bad that I don't think it matters, and they're not really.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. This Titans offense is terrible right now. The offensive line is one of the worst in the league. So Tyjae Spears is interesting, but to me, he's kind of irrelevant with how bad this Titans offense is.
Titans might be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, and that's saying much. That's saying a lot with the Bears out there too. So
Yeah, well,
all right.
Bears,
The only other
obviously.
Rico Dowdle got a touchdown this last week. If you're a Tony Pollard owner and you have a spot that is open on your roster, are you considering taking him as a handcuff?
Yeah, I like Dowdle. I don't know, depending on what these are so hard for me to answer because it just depends on what you have on your bench.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to say that.
Okay.
Without knowing.
All right. So our list right now for running back pickups, it's A-Chain at 1. No surprise there. And then you got Roschon Johnson at 2 and Matt Breida at 3. Everybody else is irrelevant. Not really worth a pickup in our opinion. Let's move on to wide receivers.
Deep league should be rostered still.
Who?
Spears. I mean, they should both be. It's just that's so hard for me to say because it depends. I don't know what even in so many leagues. I don't even know what standard is anymore. So in a deep league, all of those guys should be rostered. There's value.
Rico Dowdle as well.
Yeah, I mean he's a good runner on a. Yeah, I mean he's probably at this point one of the top injury, like has the highest injury upside at this point, and he looks good, and they're using him. It just depends on your league. It's so hard to say.
Yeah. On average, though, I think that's what we're saying. So pick up and start.
If you're listening to this, or you do listen, I guess you would still be listening to this. If you're listening to this, tweet at us, tweet at the Road Show. I can tell you in a split second who to pick and who to drop, who for who, like without even much context. Or I'll just ask a couple questions and I can get you that answer. But, it's so hard for me to just my brain doesn't work in a way where when you say that, I can just be like, oh yeah, pick them up in a league. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? Just tweet at us. We can get you all the answers and we're happy to do so. That's why we're doing this. So
absolutely. All right, let's move on to wide receivers. This list of wide receivers is a lot longer than the running backs. At the top of the list here, for me, is Tank Dell. Tank Dell, again, another big week. Week 2, he had seven receptions on 10 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown. And then just this last week, 5 receptions on 7 targets, 145 yards and a touchdown. Back-to-back touchdowns. To me, this guy's just a playmaker. He looks really good on the field. CJ Stroud is out there playing like the best rookie quarterback. Almost 400 yards week 2 and like 300 week 3. And he's forming a nice connection with Tank Dell. So, as well as Collins. I mean, Collins had a down game this past week, but I think Tank Dell should continue the success throughout the season. And he's the top waiver wire pickup for wide receivers for me. Would you agree?
Who else is? Give me your list.
All right, so we have Tank Dell. We have Adam Thielen. He's rostered in 58% of leagues on Sleeper, so the majority have him, and 54 on ESPN. We also have Tutu Atwell at 65% and 60 on ESPN. Josh Reynolds, who put up a goose egg this last week at 65% and 37 on ESPN. Quentin Johnston is out there, 51% rostered on Sleeper, 46 on ESPN. You got Rashid Shaheed. There's a long list, so let's just stick with these 6 right now. Tutu Atwell, Josh Reynolds.
There's no one better than those 6.
I'll go down the rest of the list. You got Jaden Reed, Marvin Mims, Josh Downs, Josh Palmer, and Mike Wilson. Those are the only relevant wide receivers that are available in most leagues.
Palmer is maybe at the top of my list. Josh Downs, Josh Palmer. Okay. Marvin Mims. So I think that, Palmer's maybe at the top of my list.
Is he QJ, above Tank Dell?
Yeah, I think if you want short-term Josh Palmer, long-term Quentin Johnston, that's going to be the best player in this list, period. So it just depends on what you have the ability to roster right now on your team. Did you have Mike Williams? Did you have, do you have, like last week, for example, a lot of my teams, I have Waddle and Ayuk, and I could use someone to produce right now. Josh Palmer is probably the guy in the Chargers offense. And then eventually I think Quentin Johnston will be that guy, but that's what I would be looking towards over Tank Dell, just because that offense is so much better. The Texans look great right now, but they're still going to go through a lot of growing pains this season. So like Tank Dell's not going to do what he's doing every week. He's just not going to. He's going to have bad weeks. I don't really have Tank Dell in like my top 40. I wouldn't say. I haven't necessarily went and like I haven't looked at exactly what that top 40 looks like, but I can't imagine
season.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's in there,
I think he would be in there for me, just generally 50. Speaking.
I mean, that puts 2 Texans wide receivers in your top 40, and there's just 0% chance for me that is the case. Mm-hmm. Just because there's 32 teams and I have over 8 teams that are better, that have better offenses than the Texans, which would give you a wide receiver 1 and 2 in your top 40. That's the way my brain looks at it. But again, I haven't looked at it, so I can't say that for sure. But I would say Stroud is not like this amazing quarterback. Yeah, he looks like his future is very bright. The Texans are still the Texans. They're not going to win the division. They're probably not going to win more than 6 games. So there's going to be a lot of growing pains involved in that. Like, just because they looked good for 1 game and beat the Jaguars doesn't mean like, they're not a first-year head coach with a first-year quarterback and have a lot of losing that is going to happen this season. That being said, they had played from behind. So they're showing that Stroud, when they're behind, they're going to let Stroud just sling it and throw through for good, like for better or worse. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, Ravens, they put up 9 points. Go to the Colts, who's a bad team. Ravens are still figuring out too. Jags not looking good. Like this week against the Steelers is a great test for like how good could the Texans actually be. I mean, you saw that defensive line and TJ Watt. Like TJ Watt is a big dog, real deal defensive lineman, right? He's going to be hounding all over Stroud, and how uncomfortable can he make him, and how does he handle that? Can the Texans win that game? Can Stroud look like a 300-yard passer against that defense? I'm going to say no, but if he does, then maybe Tank Dell's in the top 40. But
yeah,
I just think that Herbert throwing for 404, you're going to see that a lot more than you're going to see Stroud throwing for 303. So because of that, I want the wide receiver 2 on that offense, because that's kind of what it's going to be all year.
Yeah, that's fair. I can get that. So you have Josh Palmer at 1, Tank Dell at 2, or do you have Adam Thielen or Quentin Johnston at 2? How do you rank these 4 guys between Palmer, Dell, Thielen, and Quentin Johnston?
I have Josh Palmer / Quentin Johnston at 1. And then
what does that mean?
That means if you need a short-term fix, then you go Palmer. If you need a long-term, if you can afford to have wait a few weeks until Quentin Johnston blows up, then it's whatever your roster can support, whatever you can. Like, I think Quentin Johnston for the rest of the season will be the better player. But as of right now, I think Palmer's going to stop. He's going to step in and have the most success right away. But eventually, as Johnson learns the NFL and learns the offense and becomes more trusted, he's going to be the guy to own. So if you can take on those 3 weeks, then go get Johnston. If you need to fill in for Mike Williams and someone's going to be in your starting lineup, then Palmer.
Okay. Now, what about Dell, Thielen, Rashid Shaheed, Tutu Atwell, Josh Downs, Marvin Mims? How do you stack those guys up?
So I would probably separate them into slot high reception guys, and I would put them on the left, and then I would put big swinging home run hitters, and I would put them on the right. And that would be Tutu, Rashid, and Mims as your home run hitters. And I would go, I just don't know how much Tutu's role is going to be. We haven't heard anything about Kupp. So until we know he's going to be back, then I'm going to put Tutu as number 1, Mims as number 2, and Shaheed as number 3 as my home run hitters. And then I would put Dell over Thielen. I think that's tough. That's tough. If I knew Dalton was going to be quarterback for 2 more weeks, I would go Thielen over Dell. But because I think Bryce is probably coming back soon, I'll go Dell over Thielen. And then Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's not far behind. He could be ahead of both of those guys, mind you. Like, Love is looking like he is the real deal. And beginning of season, value on Jaden Reed. Young quarterback has not figured out who his weapons are yet. Jaden Reed has he's in an opportunity where he can win over Love and build that chemistry early on and then be in the same boat as any of those guys, right? Like Watson, him sitting out and not being on the field, having production with Love these first few weeks is huge for Dobbs and Reed, because he's going to come back. Their roles are kind of set in stone. And then it's Watson's the odd man out, regardless of past production. It wasn't with Love. Mm-hmm. So Reed's a trusted slot and he's going to have an awesome role in this offense, but I probably have him third. So I would go Dell, Thielen, Reed, and that's how I would have my 2 columns. Josh Reynolds, I don't love, just because look at what Laporta's doing. You're going to have Jameson Williams back in a few weeks. He's just kind of like a DFS, maybe he has a big game type player, but I'm not starting him at all. Downs, I don't think the Colts passing offense is good enough to support him and Pittman. So I'm leaving him off too, but I would go Dell, Thielen, Reed as if you need, a high volume type player. And then if you're looking for a home run hitting type player, it's Tutu, Mims, Shaheed. That's the way I do it. But I separate the 2 because they're 2 very different types of receivers. And again, it goes back to what does your roster need?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to hash this out and figure out a better way for people to understand this, because I think it might come across as confusing. So we'll workshop this for the next episode. But to tell everybody, we do have Josh Palmer as the top pickup for this week for wide receivers. Outside of Josh Palmer, Tank Dell, Adam Thielen, Jaden Reed, and Quentin Johnston for a long-term asset. We think he's going to pop up there. So
so saying you want to workshop this and figure out a better way to communicate this, I don't want to be one of those websites that just says, here's the fucking list. Cause it all comes down to what does your team need, right? That's what makes a good in-season fantasy football player, is knowing what your team needs and then going and getting that asset, right? So yeah, like I just don't think you can half-ass put up a list like that and it do anyone any good. Like, you know what I mean? That's just not. you're kind of just like throwing shit on the wall just so that you could have something to look at. It all comes down to what does your roster need, and let's go, because that's how you're getting your team better, right? And there's times for home run hitters, and there's times for let's say you're down 6.5 points going into Monday night, and you can start Tutu Atwell or Jaden Reed, and Jaden Reed's going to get 5 catches for 40 yards, like almost guaranteed. That's what he gets. Then you probably start him. It's all depends on that, in my mind.
Okay,
makes sense.
Yeah, and then let's talk about tight ends. There's only 4 on the list here that are worth talking about. Jake Ferguson, Luke Musgrave, Zach Ertz, and Hayden Hurst. Do you like any of these tight ends? If you're in need of a tight end, do any of those names pop out to you?
It's crazy, man, because like week 1 we were all over Hurst, right? Like everyone, he was the big pickup week 1, and now after 2 underwhelming games, it's like I'm probably going to drop him in a league I have him in and pick up Ferguson.
Yeah, same here.
I think Ferguson's the guy for sure. I think Musgrave, just like we kind of said with Tank Dell, he's young and he's going to have some growing pains in a young offense, especially when Watson comes back. That's a young offense who's missing their top receiving threat. So they're going to have to add him in and then figure out the chemistry again. So Musgrave's going to have some growing pains. Ferguson, we know his role, and it's going to be good. And he's just separating himself from Schumacher and Hendershot, whatever his name is. So definitely Ferguson 1.
Musgrave's looking a lot. Yeah, Musgrave.
Hurst.
Yeah, Ferguson, Musgrave, Hurts, and Ertz. Yeah, Musgrave looked a lot better this past week. He was being targeted pretty often by Jordan Love, so that's intriguing moving forward. But yeah, I agree with you. For me, it's Ferguson, Musgrave, Ertz, and Hurst in that order.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like watching every play, I've only done that with the Packers against the Bears, and like Musgrave looked pretty lost. Like he would be wide open on a route and just not really run to the right spot. So I think he has growing pains, right? He has rookie growing pains to go through in a young offense. That's changing every week right now, and then you're going to get Watson back. So Musgrave by the end of the season, again, what do you need now? I don't know that I'm picking up and starting him this week. Maybe. I mean, depends on if Watson's back and it's a Thursday night. I probably am not picking him up and starting him this week. There's got to be a better option. But as someone who is going to continue to get better over the course of the year and may potentially towards the end of the year be a very good starter. Yeah, that's definite.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, I think that about does it for our Hitch Hikers episode.
What about quarterbacks?
For week 4. I don't have any on my list. There's none that are worth talking about for me.
Let's do quarterbacks. Moving forward, let's pick like a ownership percentage we want to talk about and do like streaming streaming quarterback type thing.
Okay.
It's a roadshow, baby. We're constantly just, we're getting better. We're figuring out our groove. We're going to be doing this every week and just getting better and learning from every episode. I don't think I want to go live anymore. I slacked you during this episode.
Yeah.
We were getting peppered with questions, and I would rather just be in the episode fully focused on waivers, knocking out a quick 30-minute condensed good waiver segment, and then going live and taking questions. I would like to be live taking questions. So doing like a live waiver, come join us for this 30-hour time slot and we'll go through waivers. Like,
yeah,
I think that's an awesome, fun, engaging, like cool idea. I just don't want to do it at the same time and just get thrown off course and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, we could do our waiver episode in a nice 30-minute, like, boom. People can go on, listen to it. None of the bullshit is in there. It's just like, boom, boom, boom. This is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And then, Q&A Tuesdays when everyone's looking through their lineups, assessing strengths, weaknesses, adds, drops, that kind of thing. Boom. We can knock out that in the comments. I think that'd be awesome. That'd be the way to do it.
Okay. All right. Well, stay tuned for that. Again, follow us on Twitter at fantasy_trucker, at Kulz_sports. Follow the show at Fantasy Roadshow. Check out the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com.
Boom.
And check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe at youtube.com/sportsethos.
Boom. You just
Boom.
crushed that.
Buckle up.
And don't forget to pick 'em up.
Pick them up.